I learned Spanish from the internet. This is what Samuel Francis, the YouTuber from Bread and Fish TV, said on his YouTube channel, and I want to pick his brain. My name is Franklin, and this is First1000hours.com. Don't give up on your language learning marathon. You can make it. You can make it through your first 1,000 hours. Samuel Francis and I are in Houston, and we are getting ready for the Generation of Youth for Christ meetings, or GYC. And it's really cool to see all the people that are from so many different countries that are here in Houston. Mm-hmm. And before I interview Samuel, I want you to find out a little bit about him. So I'm going to play a clip of when he was in the Dominican Republic, and he had this kind of game he was playing with someone in the Dominican Republic who was an Uber driver, and this will give you an illustration of how he speaks Spanish. So we'll watch that video right now.
I just found out my driver is from Venezuela.
Hola, hola.
Wow, I thought he was from Dominican Republic, but he's from Venezuela. Okay, so everybody from Venezuela, hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Wow, what's your name?
Vicente Rodriguez.
What part of Venezuela?
Valencia.
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 Okay, okay. All right. Good Venezuela.
Hey.
Let's go. Aquí estoy con mi amigo Vicente de Venezuela. No sabía que yo hablaba español, pero mira, óyeme. Él hizo tremendo hablándome en inglés. Óyeme, machucado, pero lo hizo. ¡Hey!
Oh.
Mi amigo Vicente, óyeme.
Totalmente engañado.
Óyeme, tremendo.
Hice lo mejor posible para entender.
Sí, usted lo hizo, mi hermano, pero bien. Usted hizo el esfuerzo.
Claro,
y se notó. Wow. Ay, mira aquí en Dominicana, mira, nos chocaron. Nos chocaron ahí. Nos chocaron, pero venga acá, ¿qué es eso? ¿Verdad? No, hombre, no.
Okay. All right, so Samuel, this is the first question. How long did it take for you to get up to your first 1,000 hours with Spanish?
So I actually did a little bit of calculations last night, because it's kind of hard to calculate 1,000 hours. There's only 24 in a day.
Yeah.
And so I actually would be learning Spanish while I would work on the farm at Heartland College. And so I would say around 3 hours per day, right?
Wow.
3 hours per day. That's just on the farm.
Wow.
Not counting weekends where I would actually go to a Spanish church. And that's at least 2 hours. So that's 5. And then, just on my own. So I would say around 6-7 hours a day. And I calculated that for a month. So to get the first 1,000 hours in, I would say it was a good month and a half or so. Almost 2 months.
2 months?
Almost 2 months.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
No, see, I recommend that people spend at least 1 hour per day, 6 days a week. And now if you do that, it takes you around 3.2-ish something years.
Okay.
To get to your first 1,000 hours.
A couple years?
Yeah. So, so if you did all of this, 7 hours, I mean, you're going further than I thought you did. I didn't even know this. I knew that you did you used coffee break Spanish. I remember that when you were cleaning up in the dorm, you would use the coffee break Spanish, but I didn't know that you were out in the farm.
Yes, definitely.
Listening to Spanish.
Absolutely. While I'm moving compost or dirt to the different greenhouses. Not dirt, soil, I should say, because I know
okay,
I know.
I remember that. That's a little inside joke. Don't call dirt. Call it soil, okay?
Yeah, it's like a fancy name or the proper name. But either way, I was moving that in the wheelbarrows, and I would have my headphones in, and I would just have the classes playing. Some of the classes I didn't understand, so I would just have it on repeat until it sunk into my hard head, like the different conjugations and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what were you listening to?
Coffee break Spanish.
Okay, you were listening to coffee break Spanish on the farm.
Right.
Okay. And, all right. And then you went to the Spanish church, and how long? You said you stayed there like 3 hours or something?
Yeah, regular church service. You get there around 9:30-ish. And then church would go on till around 12:31. And sometimes you have potluck, so that's extended time where you're talking to people and everything like that. And then I was going with a Spanish staff member, so I guess you could count from the time we left on the way there.
Y'all were talking in the car in Spanish too?
Right.
Okay.
Trying.
Wow, so you were kind of utilizing your time as much as possible.
Definitely.
So you're not like me. Now, I want to tell you something. Now, this is a sad story about myself. Samuel was listening to Coffee Break Spanish, and I believe I remember around like 2008, okay? I was too. And guess what? I'm still learning Spanish. So don't be like me. I mean, if you're going to be serious, you need to be serious. And so I'm trying to illustrate that with First 1,000 Hours. I want to tell you my mistakes and failures, and that's just one of them where, I mean, if you really want to learn a language, then you need to put in the time. And so what I see with Samuel is being a serious language learner means that you need to put in serious time. It might not mean 7 hours for you, but it doesn't probably mean 5 minutes a day. Okay, I mean, if you want to get to a high level, and we kind of saw an illustration, and I would encourage you again to go into the Bread and Fish TV YouTube channel to see his vlog of the Dominican Republic videos. They're pretty funny and interesting as well. Okay, so at the end of the Uber video that I kind of alluded to, when you said you learned Spanish through the internet, that's what you said. But did you have any formal training in school? And when did you really start trying to learn Spanish?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. Most people take some form of Spanish classes in high school. And I did.
How many years?
I started in my freshman year, and I had a really fun teacher.
Okay.
You know, got off to a great start. I was getting the hang of things. Got an A in the class, but most people, I won't say most people. Some people do. They still don't speak it. But that was me. You know, I had an A in the class. Sophomore year of high school, took it again. The Spanish teacher wasn't like my first teacher, so I kind of fell off. And then that's when I stopped caring, you know.
Okay.
So I believe the teacher really has some sort of impact. Third year, public school, I didn't care at all. I was sleeping in class. I think I got a D in the class. I begged the teacher for a C or something. I don't know. But I was...
You passed though.
I don't remember.
Anyway, that's a deep question. Keep on moving.
I was lost. I was sleeping in class, definitely. Did not care. Not going to use Spanish, so I would literally go to sleep.
Okay, so... This is amazing, and I'm going to go to another question. I was not even going to go to it, but I'm going to go there now because you lost motivation because you didn't think you were going to use Spanish, right?
Yeah.
And now, the crazy thing about this is that you lived in the United States, right?
Right.
And the United States has the most Spanish speakers in the world, with the exception of Mexico. We're the second.
Right.
We have the second most people that speak Spanish in the entire world, and yet you and I think even myself and other people that are born in America don't see the use of Spanish when Spanish people are all around us. And so my question is, now that you know Spanish, do you see that time that you spent with trying to learn Spanish was useful, or was it a waste of time for you?
Oh,
what
no,
do you think?
Definitely useful. As you said, you know, you run into Spanish people everywhere. And in my work as a literature evangelist, having that ability to speak Spanish opens up a whole new people group that you can communicate with to share the gospel with. So having that second language is definitely practical.
Now, I want to talk a little bit because, you know, literature evangelist, that might be kind of like an unknown term.
That's true.
But Samuel, what he does is he believes that, you know, he has something to share that's going to help people. And I believe in his mission. And so he goes door to door and allows people to know, get good books on health and also on the Bible that's going to be pointing people to Christ. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, you have to have some kind of confidence and boldness when you do that. You know, you can't just say, hi, my name is Samuel. You know, you have to be bold. But I heard a story one time that you knocked on a door, or you knock on doors, you know, to Spanish-speaking people, and then they say they can't speak Spanish. But you're like, that's fine. Hey, I can roll with that, you know. They say I can't speak English.
Yeah.
I'm going ahead of myself, but they say I can't speak English, and you're like, that's fine.
Right.
Yep. So what is their response when you speak Spanish? Because I don't think they're expecting that you can speak Spanish.
Definitely not. They're a little surprised, a little taken back. One time I was, I think it was this past summer, I was outside of a Chinese restaurant, and I saw a group of Spanish people coming to eat. And so, I said, hey, I introduced myself, and he responded in English. But then as he saw I was, showing him about books, he's like, oh, yeah, I don't speak English. I was like, okay, no problem. I was like, no problem. You know, I speak Spanish, of course, in Spanish. And all his friends were just like, whoa, what in the world? So that was pretty memorable.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming, like, I look sometimes at different YouTube videos of people that speak in another language, and I think it does something to endear the heart to the person.
Yeah.
When they're like, whoa, you actually know more about me than maybe it appears, because you know the language closest to my heart.
Right.
So
Definitely. And when they find out that I learned by myself, they're more appreciative. You know, sometimes they can confuse me for a Dominican because, of course, I'm going to spend so much time there. But no, I let them know that, you know, American.
Okay.
Born and raised.
So again, the thing that you were saying was useful about Spanish was just because you can connect with so many different people, and would those opportunities be there to connect with those people if you did not know Spanish?
I think the opportunity is becoming more available because of Google Translate, but it's not the same at all when you can actually communicate, you know, not rely on a faulty translation system compared to you're actually sharing your own thoughts, you know. And so it's definitely another level of communication.
Yeah, I don't think that you can do like an hour-long conversation with Google Translate in the free-flowing way that we're doing this now. I mean, you would have to be waiting and pausing, and I don't think that Google Translate can compete to someone that actually knows the language. But I like technology, and I do use Google Translate. All right, let's keep on moving. Now, you went to the Dominican Republic. Like I said, you had like the videos that you had about that. So did you know Spanish before you went to the Dominican Republic?
I did know Spanish before going. I think it's the way my mind works. If I hadn't have learned Spanish before going, I don't know if I would have learned being there. Not because...
Just a minute now. Okay, go ahead. Actually, you know what? This is my interview. Let me cut you off.
Go ahead. No problem.
You were saying this, and please keep your thought, okay?
Yeah.
You were saying that you did not think that you would learn Spanish by being in the Dominican Republic, and so many people emphasize that you have to be in the country to learn the language, and yet you're saying that you didn't know if you would learn Spanish like that. So why do you say that?
Why? Because as I was learning Spanish, there's so many technicalities. Of course, not as many as in English, but there are technicalities. If you want to speak proper Spanish, you need to know the conjugations. And I don't feel like I would have learned proper conjugations, proper sentence structure, proper, you know, writing. Definitely not writing, if I had learned over there. Because I'm not trying to down Dominican Republic or down any Spanish-speaking country, but a lot of Spanish speakers don't really write Spanish how you're supposed to. I was surprised. I was a teacher there, a Bible teacher in Dominican Republic. And as I'm getting papers back, you know, I'm like, that's not how you spell that. That's not how you spell that. You know, I'll be very surprised. And so if I was in Dominican Republic or any Spanish-speaking country for that matter, for me, I would not have attained the level of Spanish that I have now. I don't think so. For me.
Now, this is my opinion, and you'll hear more of this for First 1,000 Hours. I don't want to take too much time because I'm with the expert here, Samuel. But I want to say one of the things that we're doing at the Generation of Youth for Christ is we're doing a 5K. And so I was asked to do a 5K. I was not wanting to do a 5K, but I'm going to do it. And I was asked like 2 weeks before, like 2 Fridays, basically about 1.5 weeks or so before the 5K was going to happen. And so people then say, go to the 5K and you'll learn how to run the 5K. They said, Franklin, we know you don't know how to do the 5K. You better practice.
Right.
Okay, you practice before you actually execute. And so that's the thing where you can actually be in a different country and you still can utilize the time that you have, and that's what Samuel did, to be able to learn Spanish. And then you're better prepared for your real life, you know, big race or big marathon in real life. And so don't be discouraged if you're not in the Dominican Republic, and then you can think, oh, I can't learn only if I'm in the Dominican Republic. But you can learn right now. Okay, so I have here, how many times have you been to the Dominican Republic, and what do you do when you go to the Dominican Republic?
Okay, so I've been to the Dominican Republic every year since 2011.
Wow.
So the amount of time I spent there would vary from a month to 6 to 8 months, but I've been there once a year for every year since 2011. So 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 8 years, or 8 times. 8
Wow.
times. Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do you do in the Dominican Republic?
Okay.
You said you were a teacher, right?
Right. I was a Bible teacher at a small country school. I've been an evangelist there. I've done various evangelistic series. I have done Bible working in a southern town. I've done translating work, translating other evangelists or other people doing seminars and things like that. I helped a non-denominational group that went down there. They were installing wells for people in impoverished regions of Dominican Republic. So I helped them communicate with the locals as they were, installing water pumps, hand pumps. That was really fun. Let's see. I've helped with various building projects, small building projects. Yeah, things like that. And it's been. I almost forgot my own ministry. I do GYC type meetings where.
What is what's GYC?
Well, as you said, Generation of Youth for Christ. It's a youth gathering designed to revamp the spiritual lives of young people.
Okay.
And connect them with Jesus.
Okay, cool. Now, how do you get to the point of going from not knowing Spanish to actually teaching in Spanish, and then also translating? Okay, how do you jump from those things and actually doing that in another country, in a Spanish-speaking country? How do you get to that process of doing that?
I would say, I don't know. I have to uplift Jesus Christ here because
that's fine on first 1,000 hours.
Don't
worry about that.
because in myself, I know I couldn't do it.
Okay,
there's no way. I never saw myself teaching in another language, preaching in another language, helping and motivating in another language. I never saw myself doing it. But as I gave my life to Christ and as He revealed His will for my life, part of that will was going to Dominican Republic. And, God doesn't reveal your whole life plan in one, in one sitting.
Okay.
It's step by step. So I understood it was God's will for me to go to Dominican Republic. I went. I ended up going back. And each time I went back, I found myself doing more and more until we could establish Jóvenes por Cristo. And that's translated Youth for Christ, where, we have the youth gatherings.
Cool. All right, that's awesome. And I think one of the biggest motivations for me with Spanish is Christ Object Lessons. And it's a specific chapter on the talents. And when you see God's ideal and what he wants for us and how He wants us to develop in so many different aspects, it raises a standard, I think, on learning, in my opinion. And I believe that you can only get there through Christ. And so I'm glad for your understanding. I mean, you're sharing your practical experience of how you are actually able to do that through Christ's help. Now, I did want to backtrack a little bit. You were saying that you learned Spanish through the internet. You use Coffee Break Spanish. Did you use anything else? Were you just using Coffee Break Spanish and going to the Spanish churches, or did you use any other kind of internet things as well?
I did. I used, I can't really exactly remember the name of the podcast because I used so many different ones.
Okay.
Discovery Spanish, I think, was one. Independent Spanish was another one. These are different podcasts I found. And then there's the smaller podcasts that just kind of differentiate ser and estar, or, when to use por versus para, So different. I would look up specific things. But Coffee Break Spanish was definitely the most complete, the most systematic, that really gave shape to my Spanish.
Okay, so were these so the other podcasts, were those in English?
No.
Primarily, or were you listening to podcasts about how to speak Spanish in Spanish?
No. They were taught in English for Spanish learners.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then so you had that, and I think you mentioned Duolingo as well. Did you use that or not?
Actually, hold on. Independent was all Spanish, I think. I don't remember, but it helped.
Okay. And did you use Duolingo?
Duolingo, not for Spanish. For French, yeah, but Spanish, nah.
Okay, so So you didn't use Duolingo and you're able to get to high level. So it's possible to do it. You know? And actually, I think what you're saying too is you varied things, right? You didn't just stick on one thing. And I don't think there's only one. Well, there can be a resource. I can think of a resource that can really help. And it seems like it's all inclusive. But I think the thing that I see with language learners is they vary their sources. Definitely. And I'm assuming that you got to a point also where you were just listening to stuff all in Spanish.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
And what were some of those types of things that you listened to all in Spanish?
News, 3ABN.
What's 3ABN?
Three Angels Broadcasting Networks, like Adventist TV network. And that is very helpful because if you're Adventist, at least, you're hearing things that you are sort of accustomed to hearing, except in another language. So it really helps bridge that gap as far as religious terms, whether it be hymns or sermons, things that you're accustomed to hearing. When you hear another language, it definitely helps. Okay. Definitely helps for sure.
All right. So you're using your language basically. Then you got to the point where you're using your language just like you would basically use English.
Right.
Right. There's no difference. I think on the first 1,000 hours page, you can see that I look at different things in Spanish, and you can see a kind of an illustration of some of the videos I look at because I want Spanish to be a tool for me, not just a study. And I think that's what happened now for you. Now, you mentioned Spanish churches. I did a little podcast about me going to Spanish church and all of this. How do you think, how important was it to go to a Spanish church in actually helping you with Spanish? Or was that just something that you kind of just did? Or was it something you would say would be maybe critical to do to actually get to the level that you're at?
I would say it's critical because when you go to the Spanish church, you can't just sit there. Spanish people are very friendly, very hospitable, and so they're going to talk to you. And since it's your desire to speak Spanish, that kind of like pulls the Spanish out of you. And they're not going to criticize you. They're not going to laugh at you. Well, they won't laugh. They won't laugh at you. They'll laugh with you, you know.
All right.
But it's really not in their nature just to laugh at you, to spite you or anything like that. No, they're definitely seeking to help you. And going to Spanish church, I found the community, that I needed. The one that I did go to in Fredericksburg, Virginia, the pastor was my friend, and he put me to preach. He would put me to do children's. Are you
serious? Now, were you preaching in English or Spanish?
In Spanish. By the time I was preaching in Spanish, I was actually speaking Spanish. But he pushed me to that level. Do children's story in Spanish. Do Sabbath school. So I was teaching Sabbath school in Spanish. Things like that really forced me to.
Okay.
know.
Now, when you first did children's story, how was that?
Oh man, that was laughable. If I could go back and see that, that was real Spanglish. That was professional Spanglish.
Wow. Okay.
I would have to be asking the congregation, so how do you say this, while I'm doing the children's story? And they would help me out, and it was very encouraging. It's not like I was performing. It was more like I was serving,
Okay.
And going to the Spanish church really, not the Spanish, but going to any Spanish church will help any Spanish speaker really get to the next level for sure.
Okay, so and what I see here too is you couldn't just say, well, you know what, I'm not at the level to do children's stories, so I'm not going to do it. And that, I think that's how it is sometimes. We can say, I can't read a Spanish book because I'm not at that level. I can't read a high level one. I'm not at that level. I'm not at the level to speak in front of people and all that. And then because you have that in your mind, guess what? You don't actually ever get to that level.
Right.
But what your mentality, I think, was based on like Philippians 4 verse 13. It says like, I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me, and then that allows you to go higher than what you maybe think you can do.
Absolutely.
All right, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Now let's see here. One of the things you also had told me, or I asked you on the YouTube video where you were talking about Uber, you said that you also memorize Bible verses. Is that correct?
Yes.
So can you tell us? And that was Bible verses in Spanish. So can you say one of your Bible verses in Spanish?
Okay. Well, the one you just mentioned, Philippians 4:13. Todo lo puedo en Cristo que me fortalece. I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. And that was one of the ones that stuck with me. It was motivating. I can do all things, including learning Spanish, through Christ, which strengthens me. And why that verse applies so strongly to me is because it's not like I'm doing it for my own glory. I didn't learn Spanish just to, meet a Spanish lady, like some people,
That's not a bad. I mean, no, I'm sorry. I'm not cutting you off. No. There has to be a higher purpose. But if you do have a Spanish lady that comes around, hey, that's not a bad.
Hey, that's not a bad thing.
But the purpose though is not just to have a Spanish lady. It's to
definitely, it was to share Christ. God. Exactly, preach the gospel. I think in my prayers, that was my that's what was pushing my prayers. Lord, I'm doing this so that I can share your love with Spanish speaking people. And I think God really definitely helped me with that because I had that purpose, that drive.
That's good. All right. And okay, so you had a purpose. You didn't just, and to me, I think that the language learning journey is so long sometimes, especially if you're not doing it like 7 hours a day, that you might not know what your purpose is, but it might be that, when you have that bigger purpose, when you're trying to serve, when you're trying to help other people, especially for the glory of God, then you have the purpose that can help you then be able to put in the time and the effort and the energy and combining that with the Lord, that really helps. Okay, so we talked about one of these things, but I wanted to talk about maybe what was one of your most embarrassing moments with Spanish? Okay, was it the children's story, or was there something deeper?
I want to say I don't think it actually happened in the moment.
Okay.
But it happened, I think, a couple years after the fact when I realized, hold on, I was having a conversation with somebody and I wasn't even using the right word.
Oh, man.
So I wasn't embarrassed because I didn't even know I was making a mistake.
Okay.
And it was like years later. I was like, hold on, that's the word I was using for something else in a completely different context, And so I was looking back, I'm like, why didn't they say anything? They were just looking at me, like I was saying the right word. But years after the fact, I realized I was way off in left field. But, I guess that testifies to the nature of, Spanish speakers where they're not going to embarrass you. They're not out to embarrass you.
Yeah.
So it's okay if you don't know everything,
Okay. And were you really feeling embarrassed during that children's story? Was it a real feeling of embarrassment, or was it kind of just fun or whatever?
No. I feel like, it was fun. Okay, it was fun. Exactly. It was more fun. Yeah.
I think that's a mentality too, because I think if you get too caught up in mistakes,
then
it's like
you limit yourself.
You think like, okay, you can't make a mistake in the language, then you end up not doing the language because guess what?
You're gonna make mistakes.
Samuel made mistakes.
Yeah, even today. To this day, I still make mistakes.
And guess what? I make mistakes in English, and you already heard this today, and I just stuttered a little bit there, so I just made a mistake. So that's not the big point. You just have to keep on going and know what your purpose is, okay? And that will help you. And so one of the things I did, one of the things that was hard for me when I went to Spanish church was not understanding everything. So how do you deal with the frustration of going to a church or something like that, or listening to the news or whatever you were doing, and you didn't understand everything? Because I'm assuming there was a point where you didn't understand everything in Spanish.
There was a long point. There is a lot of frustration, and that's one thing I did struggle with on the inside. Was, am I ever going to understand? Am I ever really going to get all what's coming into my ears right now? Like, because I don't understand. And knowing it's a foreign language is like, man, like, that's when that's where purpose comes in, because that's where most people give up and where I almost gave up, where it's like, man, I'm never really going to understand all this. But if you just have that patience and you understand your end goal, I want to be able to preach the gospel in Spanish. And that's what pulled me through those long hours of what am I hearing? What am I listening to? And then, is this worth it? Should I quit? But if you're just patient, as long as it takes, just stick with it. And your brain will adapt. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the best computer in the world, the human brain. And if you are submersed in something long enough, you're going to understand. If you're diligent, it's going to click almost effortless. See, there we go. I can't even speak English. Effortlessly. How's it?
Effortlessly.
There we go. Effortlessly. It's almost effortless.
Okay.
If you just keep with it, your brain will adapt. That's how kids learn the language they grow up with.
Exactly.
And so definitely, you just got to stick with it. Stick with it.
Okay, so So when you were listening, when you got to the point where you were listening to things all in Spanish, did you listen to kids programs? Were you doing that, or were you listening to more like adult programs, or what type of things were you doing?
More adult programs, but the kids programs are easier because they're using easier Spanish. And so I would definitely recommend that for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
All right, but you had a mix, right? You didn't just say, okay, I'm a little baby in Spanish, and I'm just going to be just listening to kids stuff. But you did say, you know, I'm gonna have a variety.
Absolutely, definitely.
All right. So that's good. Let's see. If you were going to learn Spanish again, you know, what would you do differently?
I wouldn't do anything differently, honestly. I feel like what I did, seeing in how short of a time I learned it, I think that's great.
Okay.
And so I really wouldn't do anything differently. I think the most important thing, well, at least for me, what helped me the most was prayer, honestly.
Okay.
Asking God, I don't speak Spanish. I need you to help me. That's what gave power to all of the other little things I did with memorizing Bible verses, with all the hours I put in. I give the credit and all the glory to God, honestly.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, well, I'm telling you, I mean, you might have to be able to go through your first 1,000 hours, you said in a month and a half?
About a month and a half, almost 2 months.
See, some people over here that are on the interview side, the interviewee side, take a lot longer than that. But I mean, that's a testament and
definitely
in itself. And so praise the Lord for that. Okay, so how did your family and friends react to you knowing Spanish?
Oh, they were excited. You know, they were excited. They would practice the little Spanish. They did speak with me, and that was great for me, you know, because I needed to speak with somebody I'm familiar with, you know. My mom actually spoke Spanish when she was working in a metropolitan area.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that was helpful. So that kind of helped her get back into her Spanish speaking. My older sister, she also speaks Spanish as well.
Wow.
And so,
now, just a minute. How with your older sister, did your mom speak to you in Spanish when you were growing up?
No.
I mean, or did she pick that up in adulthood? Or
she learned in school and in traveling abroad, but she would keep the Spanish in the workplace, you know?
Okay.
English at home. English, yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
So you and your sister had kind of like different journeys to learn Spanish.
Yeah, definitely.
Stuff like that.
Definitely.
Okay. That's cool. So that's nice that you had your family to be there and encourage you. I mean, they didn't say, you know, Samuel, not Franklin, why don't you just know English because you're in America?
No, it was definitely an encouraging thing. And then my friends, I would spend more time with my friends that spoke Spanish, obviously because I wanted to learn. So they were very, very helpful at breakfast time, lunchtime, dinner time.
At Heartland College?
At Heartland College.
Okay,
yes.
So I just want you to know I did go to Heartland College too, and I will be talking about this in a future podcast and all that. But Heartland College is a school in the middle of nowhere. Okay, it's a Christian school. Seventh-day Adventist school in the middle of nowhere in Virginia. Okay, but it's a very small school, and it has a lot of international people. Like I got to know people from Korea, from Japan, from Brazil. What are the other countries?
Africa,
yes.
China,
parts of Africa, China,
Russia.
I don't know. It would take
name it. Colombia.
Which one?
Colombia, Venezuela, all over the world.
Yeah, and one other country in Africa was Eritrea. Was it Eritrea? There's some part you might not even know that. You know that person, but I'll tell you his name later. But anyway, there is a lot of different countries that people came from, so that when you're sitting at breakfast table, people connect with each other, and it's not like they're only speaking English. And that actually annoyed me at first, but then I was like, you know what? They know another language. I just know English, and you know what? I need to learn another language.
That's right.
That put a seed in my heart. But I saw people that would use the time in breakfast not just to talk, and I mean they talk, but I mean not just to talk about anything. But they're like, okay, if I want to learn Spanish, I need to maybe sit with the people that speak Spanish and utilize that breakfast time to my advantage.
Definitely.
And that's what you were doing, you're saying, right?
Oh, yes,
so
absolutely.
So it was not just...
I mean, they would get a little annoyed because they're over here trying to learn English. I'm over here getting better at Spanish, and so I'm wanting to speak in Spanish. But they're like, can we speak English? Some of them, no, it was just for fun though. Nobody was really offended or anything, but I would definitely take advantage of the Spanish.
Okay, so not only were you in the farm then and going to the church, but then even in breakfast time.
Breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Okay, wow. So you just took that time that you had, and we're all going to eat, okay? I mean, and if you don't eat, then you're probably not watching this video. If you don't eat for a long time, okay? So we're going to eat.
Yes.
But can we listen to some Spanish? You might not be able to have that opportunity like Samuel had and I had that I didn't really take advantage of, where you can sit down at breakfast and talk to an international student or whatever. But we have YouTube.
Yes.
We have YouTube. We can look at programs on YouTube while we're eating, and there's a lot of different things you can do. And so I would look at other videos for First 1,000 Hours where I talk about strategy and I talk about success and failure and strategies and different things like that. Okay, so that was good. So you had, not only did you have the passion and the Lord's help, but you had a peer group that was encouraging you in the decisions that you were making so that you could continue in your language learning marathon.
Yes.
And
sure.
so I think that was very helpful. Let's see. I have some more questions. How did you deal with the problem of being Englished? So that means that you speak in Spanish to someone and then they say something in English.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
Me personally, I just take it as, okay, this person doesn't want to speak Spanish with me. So let's go back to English. There's like a certain feeling, like I literally just spoke to you in Spanish. So why are you talking to me in English? In my head, I don't tell them that.
Yeah.
But I just take that as a, you don't want to associate with Spanish for whatever reason. Okay. So I'm not gonna force you to speak Spanish. Okay. I speak it with somebody else.
Okay. So you just keep on moving.
Yeah, I keep rolling. Man. I keep rolling.
Okay, you keep on rolling. I guess that's what you have to do. I want to speak in Spanish. Okay. I mean, come on, help a brother out. But I understand,
definitely.
you have to actually take in consideration other people. And
right.
if they don't want to speak in Spanish, then, it's like a two-way street. It's not a one-way street. So you have to find the balance. I'm still finding it. But I think that's good. And what advice would you give to people who are seeking to learn Spanish?
Okay. Advice I would give, honestly, is be consistent. That's the best thing you could do for yourself. Be consistent. Whether you're spending 1 hour a day, 7 hours a day, regardless of how much time you're spending a day, if you're consistent, you will learn Spanish. That consistency, and it's not just with Spanish, it's really with anything in life. Consistency applies across the board. Just do it.
So can I treat Spanish like kind of like a school study where I take Spanish for I kind of forgot how long you do it in school, but you take Spanish for maybe 4 months or something. You take a break for summer, 3 months break, and you come back onto it. Or Spanish actually has to be part of my life. So it's so inseparable to my life that I can't, even no matter how busy I am, I have to use it just like even when I'm really busy. I'm actually busy right now. I need to do other things too after this interview. But I'm still speaking in English even though I'm busy.
Right. Exactly. It's got to become, as you said, a part of your lifestyle. If you really want to become fluent, if you just want to speak Spanish to impress somebody for a couple of days or hours, then this interview probably means nothing to you. But if you want to become fluent, Spanish has to become a part of your lifestyle.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right. That's good. And I'm here. I would like to encourage you on your language learning marathon. I think that Samuel just gave some really good advice. And I guess one other question is, where can people find videos if they want to see you out in the Dominican Republic? There's stuff I haven't really even talked about, like you washing clothes in the Dominican Republic. It was different. Okay.
Very different.
It was very different. I'm telling you, I never have seen anything like that because I've just been here in the United States.
Right.
But where do you go to see videos of you in the Dominican Republic?
Bread and Fish TV. Just type that in on Google, or mainly YouTube, honestly. Bread and Fish TV, and that's where you'll find all my videos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to say anything else?
Going back to when you ask what can people do, I think audio really helps doing a lot of audio. You can watch Spanish as much as you want, like TV shows or videos, whatever. But I think audio is really where you're going to get the best advantage, because one of the cool things about Spanish is the way you hear it is exactly the same. It's exactly the same way as you write it, you know? So if you can hear Spanish well, you can write it well. If you can write it well, you can speak it well. And so audio was what I really spent, I'd say 99% of my Spanish learning was audio.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. But I think even with children and all that, you know, they start listening before they start like writing and all of that. I have another question I wanted to ask. I actually failed to ask you is, do you practice writing in Spanish? And if so, do you feel that improves your speaking, or does it seem to be an unrelated skill?
No, I think writing definitely helps. I don't write as much because I mainly speak it, but because I have so many friends in Dominican Republic on Facebook Messenger, you have to write Spanish. Okay. So that helps me keep it up. Even though I didn't really practice writing, just knowing how to speak and spell Spanish well, your writing is automatically, you know, improved. And I think reading a lot in Spanish is going to help you as well.
I was going to ask you about reading. I was just about to ask you. So you read in Spanish too?
I do. Okay. And if, you know, the more you read, the better you'll be able to write, because you'll see how things are spelled. But even if you didn't read that much, if you know all the sounds of the vowel, you know, all the vowels, then you can write it, because, you know, it's literally spelled the same way it's spoken. Okay. So definitely, I think it's going to help.
Now, I was just talking to another person here at GYC, and maybe I might have an interview with him, but he was saying the same thing. Like, you know, he learned Spanish, I think a lot of times through speaking to people, listening to it, and he was able to write it out. So that's pretty cool. So if you don't have any more things to say, then I would like to encourage you again to go to Samuel's YouTube channel. It's called Bread and Fish TV. Now, this is a secret to get there. I tried to do that. I typed in bread and then the word fish TV, and I spaced it out. And guess what? I did not find the video. So you have to type in bread, the and sign, fish, TV, all one word, and put that like in YouTube, and then you will find his channel. And then also on the First 1,000 Hours YouTube channel, I have a playlist called Traveling Videos in English I've Watched. And so some of a good majority of the vlogs from Bread and Fish TV are on the First 1,000 Hours YouTube channel. But go ahead and subscribe to Samuel's channel. He just gave us a lot of information that I think is useful, because sometimes we go on Duolingo, we get excited, but then we don't know about the strategy behind it, the mentality of a serious language learner. And I think that he shared with us enough value for you to at least subscribe to his channel and go and watch those videos, okay? Give him a little bit of watch time, and leave some comments, okay? Just help him out. And then at the same time, I think that you see here that he's not just talking. He actually wants to serve people and help people. And I think that you'll find a lot of interesting things about the Dominican Republic. And so you can kind of explore it without even having to necessarily go there at first.
Definitely.
And it'll give you a good idea, because one other thing I needed to bring out is Samuel is not just going to show you the tourist areas. That's not really what he does on his channel, but or at least I haven't seen that on his channel. But he goes to where the people actually are, and so you get to see like a behind the scenes view of the Dominican Republic that even some tourists don't see. Right. So that's what makes the channel pretty cool. And I just want to let you know again, my name is Franklin, and this is First1,000Hours.com. Don't give up on your language learning marathon. You can make it. You can make it through your first 1,000 hours.